The courtroom was silent in a way that did not feel peaceful. It felt heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. Alexandra Grant sat alone at the defense table, hands folded tightly in her lap, knuckles pale from the pressure. Her heart beat too loudly in her ears, drowning out the soft murmurs of lawyers and shuffling papers. She had never imagined she would be here. Not like this. Not surrounded by strangers waiting to decide her fate. But life has a way of changing without warning, especially when the world is watching. It began months earlier, when a business collaborator accused her of breaching a contract. The accusations were false, twisted, and fueled by resentment. Their partnership had ended when Alexandra refused to compromise her art to satisfy commercial demands. She chose integrity over profit, and now she was paying for that choice. The prosecutor stood confidently, his suit flawless, his voice smooth. He smiled the way people smile when they believe they have already won. "Miss Grant," he said loudly, failed to deliver her promised work. She accepted funding, then abandoned the project. Alexandra stared at the table. She wanted to speak. She wanted to defend herself. But her voice would not move. The truth was simple, but painful. She had stopped the project because her mother had fallen seriously ill. She had spent nights sleeping in hospital chairs, days running between doctors and caretakers, and hours painting in small stolen moments of breath. She had not abandoned the work. She had simply tried to stay human. But personal reasons don't always fit neatly into legal language. The prosecutor continued. "Miss Grant acted irresponsibly, unprofessionally, and caused significant financial losses." The words were cold, sharp, designed to sound final. People in the audience murmured. Some shook their heads. Some knew her. Some didn't. Some believed her. Some never would. Alexandra's lawyer leaned toward her. "We will speak soon. Hold steady. Just a few more minutes." But inside, Alexandra felt empty, tired. The kind of tired that sits in the bones and does not leave. She wished she didn't feel so alone. She wished someone understood. She wished someone was here. She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to breathe. But her chest felt too tight. And then the doors at the back of the courtroom opened. No one turned at first. It was just a sound, just a door, just another person entering. But slowly, heads lifted. Whispers spread. A familiar figure stepped inside, wearing simple clothes, hair falling in soft waves, eyes calm and steady. He walked without hurry, without hesitation, without fear. KeanuReeves. He did not rush to her. He did not make a scene. He simply walked with quiet purpose, passing every stare and flash of disbelief. His presence changed the air itself. Heavier moments became lighter. Anxious hearts became still. He reached her side and sat down quietly, his shoulder touching hers. No words were needed. Alexandra's breath broke softly. She whispered, barely audible. "You came." Keanu turned his head, eyes gentle, voice soft enough for only her to hear. "You never have to face anything alone. Not while I am breathing." And just like that, everything in the room changed. The courtroom seemed to shift the moment Keanu sat beside her. Whispers spread like a quiet storm, but he didn't look at anyone. He didn't need the attention. He didn't come for them. He came for her. Alexandra's hands trembled, but when his hand gently brushed against hers, the shaking slowed. He didn't grab her hand. He didn't hold it tightly. He just let their fingers rest side by side, close enough to say, "I am here." Without needing to speak it out loud. The prosecutor cleared his throat loudly, bothered by the sudden change in energy. "Mr. Reeves," he said, pretending politeness, "I assume you are here to offer support." Keanu nodded once. Yes. He did not smile. He did not soften his eyes. He simply spoke truth. The prosecutor tried again, voice slightly tighter. "But surely, emotional support has nothing to do with the legal matters here today." Keanu met his gaze calmly. "Emotional truth is still truth." The prosecutor paused. The judge raised an eyebrow, intrigued but neutral. Alexandra's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, we would like to present evidence explaining the delay in project completion." The prosecutor smirked. More excuses. Keanu's jaw tensed, but he stayed silent. This was Alexandra's fight. He was here to walk beside her, not take her place. The lawyer continued. unfolding documents and medical records. Miss Grant's mother was undergoing heart treatment during the timeline in question. Hospital records, doctor reports, and care receipts verify that Miss Grant was her primary caregiver. A quiet sadness moved through the courtroom. The prosecutor tried to recover. That does not change the contract terms. The work was not delivered on time. Alexandra finally spoke. Her voice was soft, but steady. I did not stop working. I painted in waiting rooms, beside hospital beds, between doctor visits. I did not abandon my art. I just needed time to breathe. Her voice cracked, not in weakness, but in truth. My art comes from my heart, and my heart was with my mother. The courtroom quieted. Keanu looked at her then, with a softness that held the weight of years of pain and love and surviving. But the prosecutor stepped forward again, determined. Even so, the contract was signed. Delays cost money. Personal matters cannot excuse professional obligations. Keanu's voice entered the air then, low and deep. Life does not stop for contracts. People get sick. Hearts break. Storms come. Humanity must come before business. The prosecutor scoffed. Easy to say when you have money. Keanu did not flinch, but there was something stronger in his voice now. Something earned. I have lost people I loved. I have sat in hospital rooms. I have watched people fight to breathe. Money means nothing in those moments. Love matters. Compassion matters. Being human matters. The room fell into a deeper silence that no one had expected. Not a speech, not a performance. Just truth. Alexandra's eyes filled, not with fear this time, but with something else. Strength. Because he was not saving her. He was standing with her. And that is what love is. The judge called for a short recess. The room stirred with movement, whispers rising like wind inside four walls. Some people stared. Some pretended not to. But every eye, every thought, every question was now pointed toward Alexandra and Keanu. They stepped into the hallway together. The fluorescent lights were harsh, and the air was thick with tension. Alexandra leaned against the wall, finally letting her breath fall out in one long, shaky release. I didn't want you to see me like this, she whispered. Keanu turned to her, slow and gentle, the way one turns toward something fragile but strong. Like what? She looked down at the floor, small, scared, struggling. Keanu stepped closer, not to crowd her, not to comfort her without permission, but to be near enough for truth to move between them. Being scared does not make you small. It makes you real, he said softly. You don't have to be perfect to be loved. Her breath tightened. Her eyes blinked fast. For a moment, she looked like she might break, but then she didn't. She lifted her head, and she looked at him. Really looked. I thought if I showed the parts of me that hurt, you would pull away. Keanu shook his head, eyes warm but steady. I don't love the strong parts of you more than the soft ones. I love all of it. All of you. That was when her control cracked. A tear slipped down her cheek, and she didn't hide it this time. Keanu reached out, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Their foreheads rested together, not dramatic, not romantic for the world to see, but quiet and close and real. It was then that the door at the end of the hallway opened. A man walked in. The one who brought the lawsuit. A former partner. Someone who once praised her work. Someone who once called her brilliant. Someone who now stood here with bitterness written in his eyes. He stopped when he saw them. Alexandra lifted her head. Her expression shifted. Not to anger, not to fear. To calm. She stepped away from Keanu and faced the man who tried to take everything from her. Why? She asked quietly. Why did you do this? The man's voice was sharp. Because you left. Because you walked away from the project when I needed you most. You made me look like a fool. You ruined my reputation. Alexandra shook her head, slow and tired. I didn't walk away from the work. I walked away from someone who treated art like a weapon. The man flinched, but only for a second before anger hardened over him again. You owe me, he said through clenched teeth. Alexandra breathed in, breathed out. No, she said softly. I owed myself. The hallway went still. Keanu looked at her, not proud like someone who wanted to claim credit, but proud like someone who witnessed a seed become a tree. The man's voice rose, frustrated. You think anyone will believe you? She's unstable. I have proof of. Keanu's voice cut through the hallway like quiet thunder. No. You have assumptions and fear. You lost her work because you tried to control something that was never yours to own. The man glared. This isn't over. You're right, Alexandra said. It's not. Because now I speak. Her voice didn't shake now. The truth was no longer a weight. It was her sword. When the recess ended, the courtroom felt different. Not louder, not calmer, just charged like the moment right before rain falls. Alexandra and Keanu walked back to their seats together. But this time, she did not look small. She did not look like someone trying to disappear into her own shadow. She sat upright. Her shoulders were steady. Her hands rested loosely and calmly. The judge looked at her. Miss Grant, would you like to speak on your own behalf before we continue? Alexandra stood slowly. The room seemed to lean toward her. She did not raise her voice. She did not try to be dramatic. She simply spoke like someone telling the truth to someone who mattered. I did not abandon my responsibility, she began. I was caring for my mother while she was fighting to stay alive. I tried to continue the project. I worked every day, every night, in between hospital visits, in between fear and hope. I did not stop creating. But I am not a machine. I am a person. Somewhere in the back of the courtroom, someone exhaled. A quiet, human sound. When I said I needed more time, I was not asking for forgiveness. I was asking for understanding, for basic humanity. The prosecutor shifted in his seat. I am an artist, Alexandra continued. My work does not come from deadlines. It comes from my heart. And during that time, my heart was somewhere fragile, somewhere sacred. Her former partner looked away. Alexandra's voice softened even further. I loved the art we were making. I still do. But I will not apologize for choosing my mother's life over a contract. Silence. Deep, honest. Still. The judge nodded. Thoughtful. But just as Alexandra was about to sit down, the prosecutor spoke again. Miss Grant, he said slowly, your relationship with Mr. Reeves may have influenced your priorities, yes? Perhaps distraction played a role? The words landed like a slap. The implication was clear and cruel. The room tensed. Alexandra did not speak this time. Keanu stood. He did not raise his voice. He did not glare. He did not perform. He simply spoke the truth again. Love did not distract her from her work. He said softly. Love held her together while her world was falling apart. No one breathed. If you want to call something a distraction, he continued, call grief a distraction. Call fear a distraction. Call sleepless nights spent in rooms that smell like antiseptic and worry a distraction. But do not call patience, compassion, or support a distraction. The judge watched him closely. The prosecutor tried to respond. But Keanu continued, still gentle. The world teaches us to value productivity more than people, deadlines more than dignity, money more than humanity. But I will never accept that, and neither should this courtroom. Alexandra's chest ached not from pain, but from something deep and warm and breaking open. The judge raised a hand. I have heard enough for today, she said firmly. I will review the evidence, including the medical documentation. We will reconvene tomorrow. The gavel struck. People stood. But Alexandra did not move yet. The room buzzed with whispers. Keanu looked at her, eyes soft. You spoke your truth. That is enough. She turned to him slowly. Her voice trembled, but not from fear. You didn't come to save me, she said. You came to stand with me. He nodded. Always, he whispered. They walked out of the courtroom together, but waiting outside was a swarm of cameras. Blinding flashes, shouted questions, voices overlapping like thunder. The real storm had just begun. The moment the courthouse doors opened, the storm hit. Flashes of light burst like lightning. Microphones pushed forward like reaching hands. Voices rose, sharp and overlapping. Alexandra, are you guilty? Is Keanu trying to protect you? Did you use his name to influence the case? Are you breaking up? Is your art failing? Each question was a cut. Alexandra flinched, instinct pulling her backward. The noise was too loud, too close. Her chest tightened. Her pulse raced. The same panic she once tried to hide now surged like a wave. Keanu stepped in front of her, not blocking her, not hiding her but shielding her from impact. He kept one hand behind him, palm open, giving her an anchor she could choose to hold. She took it. Their fingers linked, not for the cameras, but for survival. Keanu spoke, voice steady and calm, cutting through chaos like a soft bell in a storm. We are not answering questions today. Please respect the situation. We are leaving. But the crowd moved closer, driven not by malice, but by hunger for a story. A guard tried to hold back the reporters, but they pressed harder. Someone bumped Alexandra. She stumbled. Keanu caught her instantly, his arm wrapping around her waist, firm and protective. And for a moment, everything stopped. The cameras captured the image, not of a celebrity and his partner, but of a man holding a woman like she was something precious. The world would later replay that moment 1,000 times. But in that second, it did not belong to the world. It belonged to them. Alexandra leaned into him, her forehead briefly touching his shoulder. She whispered, barely audible, "I can't breathe here." Keanu nodded once. "Then we leave." He guided her toward a side exit, one the public didn't know. The guard understood and led them through a back hallway, down a flight of dim stairs, and out into a near-empty alley where rain had just begun to fall. The silence felt unreal after the noise they had escaped. Alexandra leaned against the brick wall, closing her eyes as she tried to catch her breath. Her hands were trembling so hard she had to hold them together. Keanu stood in front of her, not speaking yet. He waited until her breathing slowed, until her shoulders loosened, until her eyes opened again. Only then did he ask, soft as rain touching windows, "Do you want to go home, or do you want to go somewhere quiet first?" She swallowed. "Somewhere quiet." He nodded and held out his hand again. The rain fell gently as they walked. They didn't need to speak. They reached a small public garden behind the courthouse. Empty benches, fading autumn roses, a fountain with water that moved slowly, like time had finally decided to breathe. Alexandra sank onto a bench. Keanu sat beside her. Not touching, not speaking, just being there. The world was still loud elsewhere, but here for a few minutes, they had peace. Until her phone vibrated again. One message. From an unknown number. And when she opened it, her hands began to shake. Alexandra stared down at the screen. Rain collected at the edges of the phone, distorting the letters, but not enough to hide the message. Drop the case, or I will release the photos. Her breath caught. Photos. Her chest tightened. She felt the world tilt. Keanu watched her face shift, not with panic, but with recognition. The kind of recognition born from someone who had been threatened before, who had seen how far people would go to protect their pride. "Alexandra," he said gently. "Look at me." She didn't, not yet. Her eyes stayed locked on the words, because those photos were not scandalous, were not shameful. They were intimate. They were pictures of her mother in the hospital, pictures of Alexandra holding her mother's hand, pictures of grief, exhaustion, love, and vulnerability, taken when she had been too tired to notice. Taken by someone who should have never been near her. Her former partner had followed her, watched her, collected the moments she never meant to share. Not to understand her, but to use her. Alexandra finally looked at Keanu. Her voice was barely sound. "They'll use my mother's pain to destroy me." Keanu's jaw clenched, not in anger that lashes outward but in grief that settles deep. He took the phone from her hand and slipped it into his pocket slowly. "Listen to me," he said. Voice steady, grounding, real. "You do not have to be ashamed of loving someone. You do not have to be ashamed of caring. Those photos do not show weakness. They show your heart." Alexandra's eyes filled with tears. "But the world does not get to decide your dignity," Keanu whispered. "You do," she breathed, shaky. "What do I do?" she asked, voice breaking. Keanu placed his hand over hers, not gripping, not controlling. Supporting. "You stand," he said. "You tell the truth before they twist it. You show the world what love looks like in its hardest moments, not for sympathy, but for honesty. And if there are consequences, we face them together." The rain fell harder now, but they didn't move. Alexandra leaned forward, elbows on her knees, hands covering her face. For a moment, she cried, not silently, not held in but openly. The way someone cries when they have been strong for too long. Keanu didn't speak. He just wrapped his arms around her. Not as a savior, Not as a hero. As the person who refused to let her carry her pain alone. She cried into his shoulder, rain mixing with tears, until her breathing softened again. When she finally lifted her head, her eyes were red but clear. Steady. Strong. Double quotes. Then we tell the truth, she said. Keanu nodded. Proud, calm, certain. Together, they walked out of the garden. Hand in hand, side by side, not hiding, not running. As the storm cleared, the sky opened slowly, and a thin line of light broke through the clouds. Love is not proven in easy days. Love is proven in the days that break you and the person who stays.